Welcome to the I Love Coaching podcast, the show where we help coaches, entrepreneurs, and leaders build businesses that create massive impact. I'm Adam Roach, alongside my incredible co-host,
Jess Webber, and we're here today to bring you the best strategies, mindset shifts, and real-life success stories to help you level up in your coaching journey.
Whether you're launching your coaching business, scaling to 6 or 7 figures, or just looking for inspiration to push through, this podcast is your go-to resource.
We're bringing you expert insights, real talk, and actionable items every single episode. So if you're ready to take your coaching game to the next level,
then let's dive on in. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the I Love Coaching podcast. I'm here, Adam Roach, along with my amazing co-host,
Jess Webber. And Adam, I'm so excited about this conversation today.
Wait, you say that every time. I think you're excited about all of our conversations.
But here's the thing, is like, I have a lot of conversations. And and a lot of them are not as fun as the ones that we have. So I really, truly, actually, genuinely am excited about this conversation.
Don't patronize me. I know what you're doing.
I am not, because truly, it's so funny. I didn't even think about the fact that I say that every week, but it's true. You know, I feel like there's conversations that we have in our world, in our life, whether it's, peers or children or spouses or whatever. And they're just kind of like status quo conversations. They're day-to-day nitty-gritty type stuff. And yet when you and I get together for these podcasts, it's to me often a higher level use of my brain. And I love that because I don't always get that opportunity. So I genuinely mean it when I say I'm excited about this, because it's like, ooh, it's a little stretch. It's a little workout.
So listeners, you are welcome then. If we're going to get a higher level of Jess Webber's brain, you all are lucky then. You are a very lucky group to get to hear that level of high level of brain. Okay. Well, Jess, let's dive right in this topic. We don't need to understand what's going on in your world right now or my world. Let's dive into this. Now, I do want to give credit. So a lot of this content today came from a mentor, a coach, and a friend of mine, Graham Cochran. And so I listened to one of his episodes, and we're actually diving into a coaching relationship with him starting this week in one of his challenges. I'm super excited, though. I want to give credit where credit is due. And though his content, gosh, it hit me like a ton of bricks, Jess, because to start off, let's talk about people and understanding their worth, right? And understanding their worth. And one of the things that I took away from Graham's coaching specifically about the pricing space was if you keep charging what you're worth, you're going to get stuck, right? Charging what you're worth is BS language, right? And here's why it's BS. Is because worth isn't for sale, Jess. Your worth is not for sale. So many people get caught up in that language of I'm worth X. Your worth isn't what's for sale here. And I want to spend just a little time in that space before we dive into more of the problem solving aspect of this. Is why do people get so caught up in their worth, do you think, when it comes to pricing?
Well, I think it comes from an insecurity around, honestly, their identity and their value that they attach to that identity.
Agreed.
So often, we've done podcast episodes in the past, 93%, I think, of people are in a W-2 job. Or if you're non-US based, that's a salaried position, right? And so
or hourly.
So often people believe that they're worth whatever their salary is based upon, and their identity comes from their job to that title, right?
That's right.
And so I think that there's a conditioning almost in this work environment, no matter what role you're in, is that your worth or your value is tied to your identity, your job title, and your salary.
That's right.
And so when we work with people who are entrepreneurial and are leaving that box that we've talked about in the past, they struggle to separate themselves from the previous industry, from the previous title, from the previous salary, and they fear creating something that's not related to that because they don't know how to articulate it. They don't know how to mentally process it.
Yeah. So when you're listening to this, listeners, if you're trading your time for money right now, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. Though you are saying that's what my time is worth, and therefore you're accepting that income, whatever that is. Again, not wrong. Though I had a mentor tell me one time, and he said, Adam, if you think you're worth more, walk into your boss's office and say, I want a raise. And then tell the boss exactly what you want your raise to be. Now, here comes the best part. And tell the boss what your problem solution cycle really is and the value that it is to the employer, right? So for example, if you are in an accounting space and you're the CFO of a company and the company wants to have a higher profit margin and you're getting paid $120,000 salary base, okay, great. And you're working 60 hours a week. If you're in a startup, heck, it's probably more than that. Or if you're in a bootstrap business, it's probably more than that.
Yeah.
And the owner says, hey, I want to have a profit margin of 80%. And right now we're at 40%. Well, great. I can get us there. And I can get us there in this time frame, and I think I'm worth $500,000. Well, if that profit margin increase gives the bottom line an additional $1.5 million, wouldn't you pay $500,000 to get an additional $1.5 million? So if you're charging what you think your worth isn't for sale. Your product is for sale. Your problem solution cycle is what's really quote unquote for sale here.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing, right?
Well, yeah, what you're doing is you're creating an offer, you're assigning the value to that offer, not to you as a person. And I think that is the differentiating factor here, right? Is you are presenting an offer, or like you said, a problem and the solution to it, and you're assigning a dollar amount that goes right in alignment with that. And I love the fact that you mentioned, hey, I want this much and I think it's worth this much because it's going to yield this much. I don't think a lot of people think that their time and energy and expertise yields an exponential result. That's not the way that we're trained in that salaried position space. And so I think, again, when we start working with entrepreneurs, as you and I do, it's a fascinating thing to watch that light bulb trigger, especially if they're joining our world and they're still in a salaried position. And we start saying, what are you going to charge, or what do you think your offer is worth? And they're like, oh, well, it's $500 an hour or something like that. And then they're like, but if you're going to change somebody's life and you're going to put $1 million extra in their business, do you really believe that your time is only worth $500 an hour?
Right.
So
let me give you a real world example here. So my stepfather owned a huge electrical supply business, and he had a very successful inside salesperson and was with my stepfather for a long time. And he and I were having a conversation when he still owned the company. And I said, how much are you paying that inside sales guy? And he said $60,000 a year, plus bonuses on his sales stuff. And the individual was okay with that. But he was his number one sales guy. And I said, if that individual walked in here right now and said, I'm leaving, how much would you pay him? And here's what he did. Now, this was probably 25 years ago, this conversation happened. He said, well, I know what this is. Now, this is the owner talking, right? I know what that salesperson brings me as it relates to my bottom line. And here's what my stepfather said. I'd pay him $250,000 because I know how much he brings me, but he's not asking me for that. And I was like, whoa. And to this day, I don't know what that salesperson is still there. My stepfather's son, my stepbrother, runs the company now. And to this day, I guarantee he's not making $250,000. But my stepfather knew how much he brought to the bottom line and would be willing to give him nearly $1,000 more. And I said, well, why don't you do it? He says, because he never asked. I was like, wow. So why? Now let's look at this from a charging standpoint, right? Why charge more? Simple. You're going to make more money if you charge more. And secondly, let's look at it this way. When you charge more, you're actually you're signaling to the market, Jess, you're signaling this. You're of higher quality service, right? You're a higher quality provider. Your brand is of higher quality of a product than something else, right? So as a $60,000 person replaceable? Yeah, totally is. But if he was paying him $250,000, he wouldn't want to go replace that, right? But if he I'm
sorry. I'm sitting here thinking of the days where I used to have to hire, and like what the quality of candidate I got when I put out a job description for a $30,000 starting salary versus $100,000 starting salary, completely different human. It's the same thing here.
Yeah, totally. Okay, now let's change gears. And let's go into, and I know you really geeked out on this when we were talking to the community about this. Let's talk about just why linear growth is a lie, right? Let's
Mm.
talk about why linear growth in charging more or in making more is a lie. Because here's what linear growth really is, and let's go back into, I don't know, if I say that my product is worth $500 or $1,000 and I want to hit $1,000,000. Well, if I'm just starting off, I'm going to charge $1,000. And then when I get
Mm-hmm.
better, or when I start to grow, or when my confidence increases, maybe I'll charge 2,000. But I still want to hit
Mm-hmm.
$1,000,000. But I think I can get there in 10 years. So hopefully within 3 years I can charge $4,000, and hopefully within 5 years I can charge $5,000. Just that linear approach to growth is a lie.
Well, the reason it's a lie is because you're focused on the wrong things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're thinking linearly about your opportunities and your goals and what you want to achieve, you tend to get distracted, right?
Yep.
Because if you're trying to go from $1,000 to $1,500 or $1,000 to $2,000, you're going to be very hung up on the small stuff. You're going to be hung up on basically what I almost would call like 2x energy, right?
That's right.
Oh, I need to do a little bit more. I need to get a little bit better brand photography or a little bit better website or a little bit better social media or whatever. And you're going to be focused on so many different things to try to increase your opportunity to then say, okay, I am now worth $2,000. You're picking up one of my favorite books. Although the other one that you have on your desk that's all yellow that comes out at the end of the month is like my new favorite.
Good. Wait. There's some people that are not watching us on YouTube. So go ahead and say these books.
Okay, so the first book that Adam was holding up was 10X is Easier Than 2X, which is Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan. And then Dr. Benjamin Hardy has a new one coming out in the end of the month called The Science of Scaling.
So good.
To me, it's funny. So I know I quote him probably every episode, but the thing is all of his works together are to me just like chapters in his thought process on scaling, right? And so it's really funny if you go back and read them in chronological order, you can see like the trend of his thought process. Mm-hmm. But back to the podcast episode. When we focus on things to go from 1 to 2 or from 2 to 4, that's a 2x mentality. That's I just need to do a little bit more. I need to spend a little bit more, or I need to do a little bit more. I need to hire one person, all those things. But when you think in an exponential growth opportunity, you can sit there and say, well, if I'm going from 1 to, let's say I'm charging $10,000, who do I need to show up as? And what do I need to have in place to justify, for lack of a better word right now, charging that $10,000 point, or from 10 to 100 even? What needs to be true about myself and my identity and what I am currently doing activity-wise to warrant that dollar amount? And so that's why linear is a lie, is because you're going to sit there and spend countless hours, countless dollars focused on the things that if you're going from 1 to 2 and 2 to 4 and then 4 to 8, getting to $100,000 or $1 million is going to take forever. You may never get there because you're so distracted. You're so focused on the non-important and non-essential things.
Well, and you nailed it, and I'll clean it up a little bit. Imagine that, me cleaning something up for you. You usually clean my shit up, right? Number one, it limits your thinking. So if you're thinking in a linear way, it's going to limit your thinking. That, as you said, that's a 2x thinking. And number two, if you're thinking in a linear way, it's going to cause you, Jess, and we talk about this all the time, to optimize for the wrong things, right? To optimize for the wrong things. And well, what are those wrong things? Maybe you're not charging the right amount. Maybe you are hiring the wrong coach. Maybe you're going to the wrong events. Maybe you're just playing with your website, right? Versus doing 10x type things where instead of going to an event, what if you're speaking at the event? Instead of hiring another coach, what if you hired 5 coaches, right? And stop worrying about the silly little things, because linear thinkers just think small and they think about the wrong things to optimize. And if that's you, I hope that lands you all. If you're listening to this, I'm not trying to be mean here. I'm just calling you out because you can be better than what you already are.
Well, And it's not meant as a negative, it's meant as an awareness conversation, because
Mm-hmm.
linear thinkers, you said it perfectly, are limited thinkers.
That's
They're
right.
stuck at their current state and they honestly don't know how to see things bigger or think bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll never get there. They'll never get to
Mm-mm.
bigger if they're stuck in with those limits. And so, even when I met you, and this is not a negative to you, you were thinking what I felt like was linearly, even
Mm-hmm.
with your massive vision, right? So
Mm-hmm.
your vision was an exponential vision.
Right.
Your
Yeah.
vision was huge, but the trajectory and the path to
The
get there
path.
to me felt very linear. And that's why
Yeah.
when I first came in, I didn't even have any of the language of, Dr. Hardy or anything
Mm-hmm.
else, but it was one of those like, no. And you
Yep.
and I butted heads for a while on it because it was like, I couldn't see getting to your vision through the path that you laid out.
Yep. Yep. And so I want to visually share with you something. I want you guys to see this, right? So if you had a XY graph, on the left side vertically would be growth, on the bottom would be time. So if you put time, yep, there you go. If you put time as 1 year to 10 years, and on the growth chart, we could put that as money. You want to go from 0 to 1 million. Linear would be just an up and to the right type trajectory, going all the way up from 0 or 1 year all the way up to 10 years to hit that 1 million. And in that same graph, could you take that line, instead of going at a up and to the right, could you go almost straight up to the million in a year and optimize for the right things? The answer is yes. Now, Jess, here's the biggest challenge that people have in this linear approach is they allow a gatekeeper to come in and tell them what they're worth. They allow a gatekeeper to come in and tell them what their product is worth or their time is worth. And here's the biggest challenge with a gatekeeper is you have to name your gatekeeper, right? I want everyone listening right now. I know you have gatekeepers. I know what's stopping you from charging more. It's not your avatar. It's not your environment. It's you. You are the gatekeeper to this. It is you, Jess. It is you that is stopping you from charging more, because we know this to be true. And I love when Graham said this, is no pricing police out there. There is no pricing police that is going to come and tell you to change your price. If you're a W-2 person right now and you walk into your boss's office and say, I will be paid this because I'm going to help you payoff wise get to this, there's no police that's going to come put you in handcuffs. Now, the boss might say, no, you're fired. Okay, great. But you didn't get arrested. There is no pricing police, and you all are the gatekeepers to this price. So you can go in an approach to 10X, or you can go in an approach to 2X, but you're the one that is self-imposing this limited thought process on yourself.
Well, I also hearken it back to being a salaried employee versus being a business owner. And that salaried employee, your gatekeeper is your boss, your employer. But when you are self-employed, like you said, you are the gatekeeper. You are the company. You define the price.
Yes.
And I got very spicy about this last week when we were talking about this conversation in our community, because I feel like so often our coaches in our community struggle with this, and they try to allow what they believe is their current avatar be their gatekeeper. And so they say, oh, well, my avatar currently is saying they can't afford more than this, so that has to be my price. And that's linear thinking, right? It's, hey, you're chasing the wrong avatar because that's what you know and what you feel safe in. And yet, if you turn around and say, my product is worth this and it can get these results, and you show up with a exponential mindset, then you find the right avatar. And honestly, the higher the price, the easier the client's going to be.
Yeah, totally.
Every single time.
I love the pushback that we got with this conversation of raising the price. And we were able to have this conversation with the coaches. And it's like, listen, if you're afraid to raise your price right now, I don't care if you're an employee or a W-2 or if you're an entrepreneur right now. If you're afraid to raise your price, let's stay in the coaching lane for a second, because you're afraid no one's going to buy. Y'all, no one's buying your low ticket price either, right? So it's like, you've got to pay attention to that price, because having a premium offer is going to force you to be better, right? Having this higher price, having this higher salary, having this higher dollar per hour is going to force you to be better. Now, Jess, let's step into the next part here of making the decision, right? making the decision to actually do this, this is what's going to stop people from doing it or not doing it. It's just simply making a decision.
100%. But let me tell you from personal experience, the second that you make the decision and you own it with confidence, you show up as a different person.
Yes.
And it becomes that much simpler to then present it in the marketplace and find people who are interested. Because not only, we've mentioned it before, not only do people pay to pay attention, but and the transformation happens at the transaction, but it also happens to you. The transformation happens when you set the price
That's right.
at a higher premium, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And so you start to develop a different level of value, self-worth, and identity when you change your pricing. And so it allows you to then have everything else become a catalyst, and you offer yourself the opportunity for so much more when you show up.
Yeah. Don't wait to charge more when you're confident. Don't wait to charge more when you're confident. Charge more and then become confident, or even more confident, right?
The first time you see that Stripe charge or that bank charge, right, come in at that new price, you're like, oh, that wasn't as hard as I thought. And then you're like, I want more of those. And can I get more of those? Yeah. You know, I have 5x'd what I tell people my base is since I first started coaching. That sounds insane, right? But then I'm like, no, I work with a different caliber of human and a different type of avatar, and I'm happier and they're happier. And it's like, oh, I am not chasing those people that actually my first client was 10 times less than what I'm charging most people. And I'm like, I don't have to chase them. They're not a drain on me or anything. It's a totally different thing. So the value, the confidence, the identity all comes with the increase in price.
Pricing your price becomes a positioning tool, right?
It does.
It's going to become a positioning tool to the market, because it's going to signal to the market that you're a premium, right? That's all it is. It's going to signal. Now, here's a fun example. If I charge $10,000 for a set of 10 videos, and you charge $1,000 for a set of 10 videos, Jess, my videos, because they charge more, are just going to have the perception that they're more valuable. And when you said it, when people pay, they pay to pay attention. But I'm going to share this. When people pay a lot attention. Yeah. And yours may be, and they probably would be 100 times more valuable. Maybe, I don't know about 100, but they will be more valuable, though mine costs more. And the perception is just going to be that. So when you decide to find that right price, you are positioning yourself. It's a tool, right? Your pricing becomes a tool.
Yes, it does.
Okay. So the fun part with all of this. So let's do one more thing here, Jess. Why don't people charge more? Why don't people step into this price that they know they deserve? 3 simple things: insecurity, fear, and guilt. That's it. Insecurity of, who am I to charge that? Fear, no one's going to pay me. And guilt, should I really be charging that? Am I being greedy with charging that? And this is where most people fail. Is one of those 3.
Well, this also goes back to the identity conversation, right? So the insecurity is an imposter syndrome situation. You feel insecure about your position in the marketplace, your authority, something like that. And so when you have your identity grounded in something more than a position or a title or a salary, you can overcome those insecurities. When you recognize what you have done, what you've accomplished, what you've overcome, and your identity is outside of a title, you're going to feel a whole lot different, right? Yeah, and then that also can help eliminate those fears. So it'll eliminate the insecurities, but the fear that goes away the second you have the first person pay too. You know, you're like, as soon as somebody shows up and says, yes, you are totally on point with that price and I'm willing to pay, it's gone.
Buyers buy because they want to. And if you are insecure, you're making this about yourself. Right? So if you're insecure, this has nothing to do. You're making this about you, not your product. So if you are insecure about raising your price, if you're insecure about stepping into a new price point, you are, again, going back to, what am I worth? No, you've got to really understand your problem solution cycle to get someone from A to Z, and who's willing to pay whatever that is, and what's their payoff. That's all this boils down to. Stop making this about yourself. If you're insecure, stop making this about yourself. Now, if you have fear, this is one that I would say insecurity and fear are the 2 that we probably see the most of, because they're afraid no one's going to buy, right? They're afraid that their price point is going to be too high. They're afraid that, gosh, if I don't sell, I'm going to have to go back and get a survivor job, right?
Right.
And with that being said, buyers will buy if they want to. You don't have to convince anybody. When buyers understand their payoff, they will buy.
No, you're exactly right. And that's why I'm saying when you show up with confidence and you're able to close that first deal, that eliminates all the fear. Getting to that point, I know that's where we see a lot of the people struggle is they're like, I want to charge this much, but I'm too afraid to say it. I have to baby step my way into it. So more often than not, we see people who will price it at half the price or a quarter of the price, and then they regret every second of it. And it's the ones who listen and the ones who take the smidge of a leap of faith and trust that when you get the first one, the fear is gone, that they start to realize that what we said was true. So, but I think a lot of the fear still comes from that insecurity, which is why those two go so hand in hand for me.
The offer you don't make is the offer you don't get, right? I mean, it's that simple. The offer you don't make is the offer you don't get. We had a coach, in the community when we taught this, was going to charge someone a certain price, had a deep dive that day, decided to double the price, got the accepted offer, and told us in the community it was just as easy to say that price compared to the original price, and it was double, and the buyer still bought.
Exactly.
She made the offer, and the offer was accepted. Okay, last one here in the guilt space. If you're in a space of, gosh, it feels greedy to be able to charge that amount, right? I should be helping this person for free, or I've been doing this for free with them for so long that I'm afraid to charge them now because they're going to think that I'm going to be greedy. And here's the thing with that, Jess, you're actually doing them a disservice. If you're not charging someone something for what your problem solution cycle is, you're actually doing them a disservice. Because when you give something for free, people aren't paying attention. You have to stay in this lane of charging them. So if you're feeling guilty, you got a Catholic boy guilt like I get from time to time, go to confession. Tell your preacher that you're going to charge someone $10,000, and then go charge someone $10,000, because at the end of the day, I'm being silly with that language, it's not for you. It's actually for them. So when you charge someone a high amount, it's for them to take action. Yes, you will have to step up. But if you're in a space of greed here, you feel you're being greedy with charging a high ticket price, remember the price isn't for you. It's for them to take action, because they will at a higher price.
100%. Well, it goes back to, if your identity is grounded in the role, then you're not going to find any value or confidence in that, and you're going to struggle with that insecurity. But if your identity is grounded in so many other things that you can do to help and serve, and you call yourself a servant leader, then it is truly your duty to charge, because like we said, the transformation happens at the transaction. If you are charging pennies on the dollar, then they're not going to have that transformation, and you're going to have to go back to the survivor job. If you're creating the opportunity for them to have the transformation the second the transaction happens, because they're going to pay attention and show up differently, then you are actually living that mission, that goal that you set for yourself and for them. And we know that the payoff is going to be exponential. So truly, you have to eliminate the guilt by understanding who you are and what you can do for those people that you've set out to help.
Yep, truly. Lower prices are going to actually repel people. Let's just leave it with that, Jess.
100%.
Let's land the plane by simply saying lower prices are going to repel people. So just take us out of here. I got to jump to my own coaching call now. We both do with Graham. So take us out of here. Land this plane, please.
Yes. So if you found value in this and you would like some more of it, don't forget that you can join our newsletter at ilovecoachingco.com. You can check out other podcast episodes, our blog, and everything else. And we will see you on the other side.
See you on the other side. Thanks, everybody. See you. Bye.
Bye.